Welcome to the L7C podcast. This is Byron Mitchell, the captain, speaking. Now, if I'm doing the intro, that means we got a very special episode for you. That's right, it is our annual Batman Day podcast with our moderator, Martin. He's going to be answering some questions for you all. How you doing today, Martin? What's our
Uh,
third annual Batman Day podcast?
yeah, third annual because we just hit 3 years on the L7C podcast, so it's always cool to be on this side of the podcast doing the guest part. And I'm good, man. Day of recording, we got NFL full Sundays back. We're week 2 into college football. I know you guys tune into our college football pods weekly and then our NFL bi-weekly, so I'm good. How about yourself?
Hey, it's been a good day. Saints won, a very close game. We survived, but hey, that first dub is always feels great.
Facts, 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 facts.
All right, man. So like I said, this is our Batman Day podcast. But before we start anything, we gotta pay respects to our man Kevin Conroy, who will be almost a year, November 11th of 2023. It'll be a year of his passing, but can't do a Batman Day podcast without paying respects to the GOAT.
Yeah, it's going to be like you said, a year in November. I was very excited to almost have the opportunity to meet him when GalaxyCon was announced for where we live
Mm-hmm.
at. And I mean, when he passed, I was just like, man, I did go to GalaxyCon. I went to the like service part for his stuff, so it's kind of crazy that the one chance I was going to get to meet him, it just life happened, and yeah, just it'll be the first Batman Day without him. So I'm pretty sure they're going to do some stuff for him as well because he's been Batman for most of his life. I mean, from
Mm-hmm.
Batman the animated series to a lot of the to Justice League Unlimited, to some of the Batman animated movies, a majority of them, to the Arkham series, Injustice. I mean, he is Batman for 90% of Batman fans. I mean, when you
Mm-hmm.
read a comic, you read it in his voice. So yeah, you just gotta shout him out on Batman Day from now and forever because that is Batman.
Very, very iconic. Kevin Conroy. We were both at that GalaxyCon tribute. But they did a very, very nice job of just last minute preparations for getting that out because he died in November. And I think GalaxyCon was some third. Um, but they did a very good tribute. And I know they'll be back at this year, so we'll see what any Batman related things they do at GalaxyCon this year. But again, shout out to the GOAT.
I would also to pay respect to Arlene Sorkin. For people who
Yes.
don't know her, she's the original voice and inspiration behind Harley Quinn. Just a quick thing. I know people, if you don't know, Harley Quinn did not start in the comics. She actually
Hmm.
started in Batman the Animated Series. So that led from her success on that show, the comic publishers were like, oh, who's this character? She's okay. We like her. So that's how she transitioned to the comics. So it's very rare that a character starts in a show, an animated comic book show, and then starts getting her own comic and then gets tied into the lore. So rest in peace to her as well.
Yes, rest in peace to her. I didn't know she was the original voice. I always thought Tara Strong was the
Mm-hmm.
original voice, but hearing her, because when she passed, they did like clips of like her as the original voice. Like just hearing her is like, wow, she is iconic as the Harley Quinn voice as well. So
Mm-hmm.
shout out to her as well. So recently the Flash movie came out and it was Ben Affleck's last performance as the Batman. So as a Batman fan, what is his legacy as the Bat?
Also, so I won't say much. I won't try to regurgitate anything because if you haven't listened to our Flash review, make sure you listen to that.
Hmm.
We'll link it in the comments and all that below. But objectively, it's very complicated, very, very complicated because Ben Affleck, one stat you don't want to have. Ben Affleck is the only live action Batman to not have his own film.
Which is wild when you think about it.
It's crazy because obviously Ben Affleck got announced as Batman in 2013 at the Comic Con. And he was in Dawn of Justice, Justice League, Whedon, and Justice League Zack Schneider. He did the
Hmm.
cameo in Suicide Squad. obviously the Flash. Like he's been in multiple movies of the DC EU, and for him not to have his own solo thing, it's honestly embarrassing because from the other standpoint, a lot of people are sad about it because that's their favorite Batman. The line
Hmm.
that they always throw out is he's the most comic accurate Batman, which I feel like they take that way out of context for what that even means. Because I feel like when they say that, they just say it just to say it because that's a cool thing to say. But it hurts, man, that he didn't get his own movie. Like it really does. The positive things from him, though, is that he's the first Batman to interact with Superman on the big screen, interact with the Justice League on the big screen. Like he's the first one to be in that comic type world. The other Batman movies have been Batman by themselves and maybe throwing a Catwoman there or a Robin there or a Gordon there, and then they're going against their supervillains. They've never been on the more world universal scale like Ben Affleck is. So
Hmm.
it's a wasted opportunity. I mean, when he first got cast, the sad Affleck memes that started to he was killing all the people in the movie and BVS to the warehouse scene being the best Batman fight scene live
Hmm.
action ever to Whedon cut really killing him to Justice League to Schneider's cut being like, oh, we want more of this Batman. And then his last speech in The Flash was really good, but before that last speech, people didn't like the way he was acting on the bridge of Wonder Woman and Flash. So it's literally mixed, man. It's 50-50 because I wanted him to get his own movie. I wanted him to have a conclusion, but that's a lot of people's favorite Batman because he is comic accurate, which
Yeah, like you said, what is comic accurate nowadays? But Ben Affleck, man, like when you first got casted as Batman, I was not a fan because of his performance as Daredevil, but
mm-hmm,
watching his Batman movies, actually, he did grow on me, so I definitely wanted him to get his own movie because the pitch they had was him versus Deathstroke, and that would have just been a great movie with Joe Manganiello playing Deathstroke.
yep,
When he showed up at the end of BVS, the Snyder, not BVS, Justice League, the Snyder cut, he looked great in the
mm-hmm.
Deathstroke costume, so I definitely would have wanted Ben Affleck to get his own solo movie, but such is life with WB and all that shenanigans that we've talked about ad nauseum on these podcasts.
He was supposed to be in Aquaman that's coming out this year, which again have no trailer yet. Potentially a trailer coming soon, but still no trailer. But then James Gunn cut it out because he didn't want any confusion going forward on if Ben was going to be in the DCU, not the DC. Like so, yeah. Flash. He was supposed to be in Aquaman, but Flash was his last performance. So
Sad, sad, just sad. Every time I think about the DCEU and the potential it had and what it became, it's just sad to think about. But in that Flash movie, we actually did have three Batman. We have Ben Affleck, Michael Keaton, and George Clooney.
mhm.
But what did people want out of the Batman in the Flash?
Yeah, so what people wanted, I think, in the Flash movie in general was more multiversal encounters with different versions of themselves. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, Ezra Miller got to interact with Ben's Batman at the beginning, Keaton's Batman for the middle to majority of the film, and the end scene with like two lines with George Clooney's Batman, which no one really it was like, oh, a surprise, but no one really cared for like that. I think people wanted the interaction they wanted it as close to Flashpoint as possible. So they
Mm-hmm.
wanted the actor who played Thomas Wayne in BVS to be like Thomas Wayne Batman and like have him have interaction with Ben Affleck's Batman or have the other Batman meet each other to help Barry. Like none of that stuff happened. So it's a wasted opportunity. Like if we could have had like a side by side fight with Keaton's Batman and Affleck's Batman, that would have been earth shattering.
Yeah, I would have loved to see that because that silo fight that Michael Keaton
Mm-hmm.
had in the movie was amazing. And we talked about Ben Affleck's warehouse fight scene. So just them two together could have just made a great, great fight scene. And I was one of the people, like, I've seen the George Clooney Batman multiple times. Me and my brother used to watch that a lot when we were kids. But George Clooney is George Clooney. I wasn't super excited to see him come back. I know we've talked about this on the Flash podcast, which again you should listen to. That that role could have been the new Batman for the new DCU.
Mm-hmm.
To say, hey, we know this Flashpoint restarting the movie universe. Here's now our Batman, but James Gunn, hasn't picked out his actor yet, so that didn't happen. So I think that was just like a wasted cameo.
Yeah, and they tried to get Christian multiple times, multiple times. I don't know who was asking on their behalf, but he just kept saying no. So
Because Nolan wasn't attached to it. If you had got Christopher Nolan, I bet you been not Ben Affleck, Christian Bale would have showed up.
agreed. Just a quick cameo. I mean, it was a terrible. That movie ending was terrible with the Clooney and Barry's tooth coming out. Like it just wasn't good. And I also think people saw that when they saw Keaton fighting, they're like, this was the Batman. This is the Bruce Wayne we wanted for Batman Beyond, because that was stuff
Hmm.
on the table. If certain things went well, everyone's always wanted Keaton to be old Bruce Wayne to a Terry McGinnis, but now that's gone. So
If they wanted to, they could still do that story.
if
People
they
would
if they do
go
wanted to, yeah.
crazy for it.
But I just don't think they will. I mean, I know that was even stuff CW wise, because of like the future stuff with like a Legends of Tomorrow meeting like Terry McGinnis Batman. That was
Hmm.
stuff that was talked about for a while, and it just never came to pass.
Oh, the CW,
Which
my foe.
it's kind of crazy too, because from the CW standpoint of like the Batman stuff, obviously he was just like a huge shadow. Like, you couldn't use him because of all these intellectual properties, yada yada yada. But it's also weird from the CW standpoint, just quick side, that it's been gone for a while, and it doesn't sit right.
It doesn't. Like I was just thinking about either yesterday or the day before. I was like, man, I miss the Arrowverse.
Yeah,
And it was
like
crazy because we still have Superman and Lois, but it's just like the other shows. Again, Batwoman and Legends of Tomorrow didn't get their proper series finales, so it's just like a big hole that's left on the CW.
and obviously Superman and Lois too, just aside, because they have obviously Superman, Lois, their Lex Luthor is crazy, Doomsday, all that stuff. People have always been wondering if a Bruce Wayne's going to show up on that show. Highly doubt it, but obviously it's a Superman mythos. Batman is important, so I highly doubt that. But no, it's weird because you've had shows for 10 years that you can consistently count on, especially during those dog days of if you're a sports fan and there's no sports, but you're like, oh, I got Arrow at Tuesday at 8, I got Flash
Hmm.
Wednesday at 8, or I got Black Lightning and all that stuff, and then like that whole universe gone. It's just it's I've been thinking about it the past couple of days, like, man, it just feels weird because when there was no sports and you had nothing to watch, you always had the Arrowverse on TV.
Yeah, even with sports, like the fall premieres, like in a couple weeks, like a new Flash season would be here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, Wednesdays, Flash, Thursday football, Saturday, Sunday football, come back Monday, Arrowverse again. Miss that time, man. It was such a magical time.
Oh yeah, I remember Sunday night football games. I had to watch Sunday night football, and I had to watch like when Batwoman was coming out on Sundays,
Hmm.
like because I didn't want to miss it. So it's still crazy. Also, check out our Arrowverse retrospective that we did. I know that's also a really good one, and still trying to do a part two on that. More on that later on.
More on that later. Speaking of Christopher Nolan, he
Mm-hmm.
had his 2008 superhero epic, The Dark Knight, which grossed $536 million worldwide.
Domestically,
Domestic, thank you, domestic. It
yeah,
was the
because
highest grossing domestic release in Warner Bros. History.
mm-hmm.
Until this year, with Barbie eclipsing, how much has Barbie made domestically?
It's like 540 something.
540 something. That's very impressive. I know you and Chelsea did a whole episode on Barbie, so go check
Mm-hmm.
that out if you haven't listened to it yet. But that was a 15-year record that was broken this year. As a Batman fan, how do you feel about it finally being broken after 15 years?
It was funny because Chelsea asked me this question on the Barbie side. I mean, records are meant to be broken. I think with Barbie, the Barbieheimer thing as a moviegoer, I'm very happy for. I know Oppenheimer because directed by Christopher Nolan. Very happy for both of them because those were like the last movies that were able to be promoted by their cast before the strike.
Hmm.
If people remember too, when they were in London and they all got the text that the strike was happening, they all got up and left. So they promote that really well, and it's a really good. I mean, it's a really good movie. I like the movie. Shout out to Harley Quinn, live action, Margot Robbie. But for it to last 15 years, you got to think that movie came out in 2008.
Hmm.
The 538 domestically made 1 billion worldwide. Again, the first superhero movie ever to make $1 billion. I think people don't realize that the first one was in 2008, and now that we're in 2023, you could hit or miss with
Hmm.
$1 billion because a lot of people are like, "Oh, this superhero movie is unsuccessful if it doesn't make 1 billion." It's just like before '08, it was uncommon because from 2008, The Dark Knight was the first $1 billion movie. You didn't have another $1 billion movie until 2012 with The Dark Knight Rises and Avengers 1. Then some of them started coming in. Like it's not a common thing to do. Like you have to be a really good comic book movie and a really good movie overall to get that. So for Barbie to break it 15 years later, it's great. Can't wait to see what breaks Barbie's thing because that just shows as a moviegoer, people are going to the movies. You make
Yeah.
something good, people will go. So,
Yeah.
but no,
Very, very impressive after 15 years. It's finally broken. And it's crazy, like you said, like if your movie doesn't make $1 billion, you're considered a failure.
especially in the
Um,
superhero game.
and it's crazy how The Dark Knight set that precedent. Like, oh, if you don't make $1 billion, you're not successful as a superhero movie,
Well,
which
it
is
made
wild.
it made $1 billion. It got nominated for 8 Oscars, won two, won a whole bunch of Golden Globes. Like it also started the controversy of people of getting snubbed of Best Picture. That was a huge deal in 2008 that The
Hmm.
Dark Knight was nominated for all the things in the world, but was snubbed for Best Picture. So it made people look at who gets nominated for this stuff and open their eyes. I mean, just last year, whatchamacallit, Angela Bassett was nominated for Best Supporting Actress in Black Panther. And the community was upset she did not win because she won the Golden Globe, but won the Oscar.
Hmm.
I mean, that stuff didn't start happening until Dark Knight when Heath Ledger won Best Supporting Actor in a superhero movie. So he's still he's still the only one superhero wise to win Best Supporting Actor in an Oscar from a superhero movie, and Joaquin Phoenix is still the only one to be Best overall male actor in a superhero movie in Joker. So
That's crazy how both Joker characters got Oscars for their performance, which both did very, very, very well as the Joker.
I agree. I think some people have been snubbed though. Like Angela Bassett should have won. I
Hmm.
do think from a longevity award perspective, Robert Downey should have been nominated at the end of Endgame just from a
Hmm.
longevity creating that world thing. But they're getting stuff in like makeup and music and
Hmm.
all that. But that's Marvel's still looking for that best supporting actor actress award for a movie.
Well, we got a lot of movies coming out in the next couple of years. Well, yeah, got delayed because of
Yeah.
the strikes and all that, but
And
maybe one of them will get it.
Dark Knight Trilogy is going to be in select theaters during the Batman Day festivities. So if you haven't seen it in theaters, which maybe you haven't, maybe you're a younger person and you haven't seen it in theaters and you want to go see it in IMAX, go right ahead. I mean, you can also buy the DVDs are out, and if you can casually just watch it on HBO Max or
Hmm.
randomly on things. But again, if you want the full theater experience to try and remember what it was like on those movie theaters, it will be in theaters. So check them out.
I think the only one I didn't see in theaters was Batman Begin, but I definitely saw that Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises
Yeah.
in theaters.
Yeah, and Dark Knight Rises, obviously, I mean, It always has the little cloud over its head because it was on track to beat Avengers 1, but the shooting happened
Mm-hmm.
during that movie. So
Yeah.
parents weren't
And
letting
people
their
are
kids
afraid to.
go.
Yep.
Yep. No. But no, check them out. Check them out.
We did see the Batman together. So the Batman 2 is coming out October 3rd, 2025. What rumor villains are on the horizon? I know we've talked about the Court of Owls, but what
Hmm.
other villains are on the horizon for that movie?
So when you say 2025, it makes it seem like it's a long way, but that's only a year and a half from now,
Yeah,
which means by the end of maybe next year, Batman Day, we may get a teaser. We may,
hopefully.
or depending on what DC does at next year Batman Day, or if y'all remember the very first superhero episode ever on the L7C podcast, DC fandom during COVID times.
Oh, they need to
Maybe
bring that back.
yeah, that was the captain's very first episode fandom. That's a very maybe that's a podcast in itself. A re-listen of fandom to see what they were talking about back then and see what actually got applied because that was a long time ago. But yeah, 2025. Right now those people that we already mentioned a lot. There's a lot of steam picking up for Clayface, but without powers, which would be weird because Clayface has the shape shifting ability, so I don't know how you have him in there without powers. It's also depending on where the story's going to go. Because obviously,
Hmm.
Penguin's supposed to have his show on HBO Max.
Hmm.
So you can't just. So the city, how long are you going to have for the movie? You're going to have like a year's passed since Riddler basically flooded the whole city. It can't just be, or are you going to try and do it like it's been 6 months, the city still sucks, and now there's a new crime lord trying to take over, or Penguin's taking over. I don't think they're going to want Penguin, but like Clayface has been one that's been talked about a lot. A lot of people have talked about maybe a Mr. Freeze type, but it all depends on where you're going. How far is the time skip from the end of Batman, the Batman to the Batman 2?
Yeah, especially with, like you said, the Penguin show coming out on HBO Max. Like, is Batman going to be a part of that show, or is just going to be looking at like maybe his rise to power since Riddler basically blew up the city and flooded it?
And
So that'll be,
Falcone's
yeah.
dead. I mean, that crime stuff done. Catwoman's doing whatever she's doing. It all depends on like where they're putting. If it's like, oh, this is 10 days after the Riddler thing, then I expect most of the city to be flooded.
Hmm. I think they should give it some time. Like maybe I think 6 months would be like a good threshold. Like what has happened in the 6 months since the
Mm-hmm.
Riddler? Like the city's still flooded. Is it still shitty out there? Where's Penguin? But I feel like if Penguin's in the movie, I feel like he would have to be the main villain.
Yeah,
Not necessarily.
there's also talks like we talked about Kurt Vals, but if they want to keep the crime mob boss feel in the movies, Black Mask is a really good option.
Hmm.
Like he starts taking over because Sionis does have big influence in Gotham, has his own bank, all that stuff. Anyone who's watched Under the Red Hood animated movie or played Arkham Origins, he's in there. Or if you've watched the Harley Quinn movie, and
Hmm.
Birds of Prey, he's the main villain there. So he would be a very good one if they're trying to keep the grounded mob feeling.
Yeah, I like that. But you said Clayface without powers. Now that's weird. Like I would love
Very.
to see Clayface like take that big movie role, but if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it right. You can't have
Yep.
him without powers. Like that's his main shtick.
Yeah, I would. With Clayface too, I agree. Like I would want something with obviously his main stick and people who haven't been in the movies of recent. We've gotten to a point where it's like, I mean, Riddler getting his big stuff, that was really cool.
Hmm.
But obviously, people are like, well, if you watch the deleted scene in the Batman or you paid attention to stuff that got leaked, there was a scene of Batman talking to that universe's Joker.
Hmm.
So people have already claimed, like, oh, when are we getting that interaction? Where I think you can still put that way off to the side and like have a clay face or a black mask. Hell, even with the place getting flooded, have that influence a poison ivy who's all about like the world, wildlife, and all that stuff. Like, oh, this city needs to be destroyed because nature can live. And I saw that through Riddler blowing everything up. Have her in there. Like, that'd be a very interesting twist of villain. We don't always have to go to, I mean, we'll get a Joker eventually. You don't need to go to Bane. We've already had
Mhm.
like Roz and all that stuff. So, like, there's a whole bunch of Batman villains. A Hugo Strange would be nice, especially if Batman's
Mhm.
always in Arkham. So, yeah, those are some different ones that they should think about. But 2025, Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson, the crew coming back. We'll see. We'll see. We'll even see if that's still the case because of the strike.
Yeah, the strike has definitely pushed back a lot of MCU shows, and
Mm-hmm.
movies. So we'll see if that bubbles over into the DC side of things. But speaking of directors, you brought up Matt Reeves. There's another director here, Andy
Mm-hmm.
Muschietti, who directed The Flash. He will be directing DCU Batman Brave and the Bold. Do we really trust him to direct this movie?
Oh, Captain, that's a you tell me, man. I go. It's just I didn't like a lot of the stuff he said in the interviews with Flash. I'm not gonna lie, how he said he had power to basically get any cameo he wanted, but he didn't get the cameos that made the most sense. When he said, "Oh yeah, it's too filled with cameos," I was like, "All right, you had Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, and at the end, Jason Momoa, the core people from this Justice League. Cool. I
But
don't know if I,
then you also had like those CGI, like Nicolas Cage and then Christopher Reeves and the original Supergirl. So like,
yeah. So those that made no sense. I mean, I know if you wanted the for the wrestling fans out there, if you wanted the cheap pop of seeing Nicolas Cage as Superman finally, sure, but they made no sense. You didn't have a Jay Garrick interacting with Grant. You didn't have or Grant. You didn't have Grant Gustin in there being Flash. You didn't have John Wesley Shipp being Flash. So that stuff concerns me because this Batman Brave and the Bold is supposed to have Batman. It's supposed to have Damian Wayne. And it's supposed to have people of the Bat family. So who are you about to have in this Bat family? You're going to say the Bat family is going to be in there, but then not casting Alfred? Like, are you going to have a? Are you? And if Damien's in there, Dick Grayson would be Nightwing. You're going to not have Nightwing show up? Like, what Bat family? You're just going to put some random Joe Schmoes in there? Like that concerns me.
yeah, because he really did have the power to make Flash like bigger than what it was, and he chose not to. So I'm a little concerned with the direction that the Brave and the Bold has will go. We have not any casting news yet because the strikes happen, so it could potentially come out 2026 or 2027. I'm leaning more towards 2027 because we have made no headway with the strikes, so I don't think they're going to end anytime soon. So we can get that casting news so people start working on the script and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. I mean, they're still sticking with him because Flash didn't do so hot at the box office, and I feel like that's a lot more of the Ezra Miller stuff than the actual movie itself. James Gunn, I remember when he was hyping up saying it's one of the greatest superhero movies he's ever seen. Highly disagree with that. But also we got to put in consideration this is James Gunn's first Batman day as like boss.
Hmm.
So obviously with this worldwide stuff, and I mean like if you link will be in the thing, there's stuff going on all over the world celebrating Batman, movies, parades, all of that stuff. Is James Gunn gonna want to make a splash this year?
I feel like he needs to. Maybe not needs to. I feel like he should. Because he did give us the super casting for Superman and Lois a couple months ago. So
And a
if
whole
he
bunch of rando superheroes in that
that's
movie.
true. That is true. It's gonna be I guess a Superman with established heroes already. So that'd be interesting to see. But if he wants to make a splash, go ahead and give us that casting news. If they were casted before the strike happened, which we
Yeah.
don't know if they were or not.
And last time he was asked about it, he said that they haven't come close to making anything like that. So it is what it is on that perspective. But I mean, if he wants to, he should do something, make a splash on Batman Day or but maybe he wants to save it. Like you said, a lot of people are already thinking like end credit scene of Superman Legacies when we'll see the new Batman, or they wait till next year, or they do a fandom thingy ish again, or
Hmm.
something like that. But it's very interesting because, or maybe he doesn't want to announce a casting person because castings either get loved or they get smoked on social media. It's just the way it goes.
Hmm.
You have a few
Hmm.
people who are like, oh, let's just give it a chance, but then you hear some contradictory stuff from the people making the cast, and you're like, what the hell? Obviously, with the stuff with Henry Cavill, is like, oh, we didn't want an older Superman or whatever, even though he's not that much older than the new Superman. And then James Gunn saying this isn't a Superman origin movie. And if it's not a Superman origin movie, why'd you need a new Superman when Henry Cavill has been wanting to do it? And it's going to be hard, man, because people really like Robert and people really liked Ben Affleck. He had a cult following. So they're going to he's going to get met with rejection. I do think Andy can get some of the fights down from the small stuff that I saw with Batman in the Flash movie, but
Hmm.
that's the suits are you got to make the new suits, you got to make the new emblem, you got to have the voice, you got to do all these different things. So who's going to be the main bad guy in that movie? Like it's interesting because Flash he didn't handle that well, and Flash's fans are nowhere near as psychotic as Batman fans. So
Yeah, if he fumbles the bag with Batman Brave and Bold, the Batman fans are going to tear him a new one.
yeah, and a good Batman movie, not even to I know we were talking about money and putting expectations, but a good Batman movie is at least 700 million worldwide. At
Hmm.
least. I mean, if you look at the past couple of movies, um the Batman, even though I don't know why it gets considered a Batman movie, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, obviously the Dark Knight trilogies, like they've made a lot of money. Like stuff he's involved in usually makes a lot of money. So yeah, he has the biggest fan base movie wise in DC, probably him and Joker. We'll see
Hmm.
what the Superman movie does. So like that's minimum. If you're teetering 300 million worldwide at the end of your thing with a Batman movie, that's not good.
That's not good. And James Gunn definitely will have to go back to the drawing board. Him and Andy, if that does not eclipse, like you said, 700 million
That's the
worldwide.
minimum. It's the minimum.
So let's go on to the Batman game side of things. There hasn't really been a new Batman game in years. They did announce that the Arkham trilogy coming to Switch on October 13th of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be, I guess, a remaster or a remake. I don't know if the Switch is going to be able to handle all of that, so we'll see. But is it worth the buy or is it just a cash grab?
Oh, it's a cash grab, man. If you've already, cause they've already remastered them on like the systems. So
Hmm.
if you have a PlayStation or Xbox, you can get the Arkham trilogy on that. If you really are a fanatic and you want to just randomly play Batman on your Switch, or maybe in some households the Switch is the only gaming system you have, and you've heard of these games and you want to play them, then sure, get it. But if you already have had it on a console, you do not need this game. There's nothing new they're adding to any of these things. There's no special new missions. There's no special new suits. They're not updating any of these things with the season pass. If you've had the season pass for Arkham Knight, Arkham Asylum, and Arkham City, you do not need to buy this game. The only reason I would have said to buy this game, which is another reason DC is just freaking idiots, if it was a true Arkham continuation, if you had Arkham Origins in there,
Mm.
because that has not been remastered on any console, it's still the old 2013 version on like PlayStation 3 and Xbox
Hmm.
360. You could play it on your PC, like you can go to Steam and buy it right now. But if they would have remastered that, that would have got a lot of people excited because so many people want Arkham Origins remastered.
I think they probably should have remastered it or added it to this, call it like instead of the Arkham trilogy, just call it like the Arkham storyline or something like that.
Problem is that the first City, Night, and Asylum were made by Rocksteady, and Origins was made by WB Montreal, who made Gotham Knights. You already know how that goes. People are like, "Oh, they were,"
Yeah,
even though it's literally a continuation. It's literally fits perfectly into the Arkham story. They even mentioned stuff in Arkham Origins in Arkham Knight, so it that's what people would want. But nah, don't you don't need to buzz. And like you said, man, at the launch a long time ago, PC couldn't even handle Arkham Knight. So I don't know how they're gonna put all this in a Switch. And if also is like, are you gonna play a game and then when you're done with it, you click out of that, go to the next one, or if it's something like where it's a continuous thing, that might be cool. That you're just going to and like it's just a continuous story. But
that would be dope if they could do something like
if
that
they
with
did
a
it
few
like
games.
that, then I would be a little more interested because I was like, all right, no breaks, no stops. It's just Arkham. You're playing through all of Arkham Asylum, and you don't have to be like, oh, this is the click X to enter Arkham. Nope. You go straight into the Arkham City story, and then you beat that. You go straight into Arkham Knight. That would be cool. But it's like, if you're a completist person, do you really want to put yourself through going through all those Riddler stuff again to get Nightfall Protocol? Like, do you really want to do that all over again on a smaller screen?
What would have would be crazy is that if they did like the continuation storyline, you had to collect all Riddler trophies.
See, that's not even appeasing to people. That was one thing that people hated: Riddler trophies and too much Batmobile and Arkham Knight.
Yeah,
And the boss
those
battles weren't
Riddler
even
trophies were. Oh my God.
just to get the true ending.
Yeah.
But no, you shouldn't get it. And it's like we're still waiting, which we've talked about on previous pods. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, where it's the last Batman performance of Kevin Conroy, and maybe they're waiting for that to happen before we get a new Batman game. But specific Batman game, not since like Telltale season two. But it could be another
Yeah.
thing too, where it's like, even though there's a plenty of good Batman voice actors out there,
Mm-hmm.
Baker, Jason O'Mara, like there's a lot of good Batman voice actors. It could be something where it's like they don't want to get anyone because Kevin's gone, so now they can't get Kevin. So, but they got to figure that out, man. And that's a DC video game thing in general.
Yeah.
Justice League, Kill the Justice League is supposed to come out next year. We'll see because we're supposed to be
I
playing that game right now.
supposed to be playing it last year.
Mm-hmm.
I we've talked about this on plenty of podcasts. I don't know if that game is coming out. Like if they delay it once more again, they might as well just give up on it. It's like because I was excited about it when they did like the little 30-minute
Mm-hmm.
gameplay. It looked fun to me, but there's a lot of backlash with it, so they're like, we'll take it back to the drawing board and revamp it. So it's now coming out February 2nd of 2024. But I don't think it's coming out.
And then even from like you had Gotham Knights come out, and we've talked about this too. It's like first game where Batman, you don't play as Batman in a Gotham game, which is crazy.
Hmm.
You don't even get him as DLC because they basically given up on DLC. Maybe eating
Hmm.
words. Maybe that's what happens on Batman Day. Gotham Knights decides to drop some DLC, like a teaser for DLC that they're going to release in like 2028. But because that game has so much opportunity, and I have not
Yeah.
touched it since I beat that game because it's just there's. I mean, I do like the end game content where you can do other like just random missions across the street, which Arkham Knight severely lacked. But it's
Hmm.
like what Arkham Knight was really good is there was a whole bunch of DLC, a whole bunch of new
Hmm.
bad guys. Like that Gotham Knights, they just gave up.
Yeah, you had the villains, yeah, Harley Quinn, Mr. Freeze, and Clayface that you can do those missions, but outside of that, um, with the Court of Owls, you didn't really have any other villains that you can interact with. So they could have definitely did DLC like, oh, this month play this mission with Poison
Mm-hmm.
Ivy, capturing Poison Ivy or something like that.
Yeah, they just gave up, man. It's like anytime I see a poll of what video game is like better because of the past couple of superhero games like this or Marvel's Avengers? I always pick Marvel's Avengers, and I'm a Batman person, but it's like Marvel's Avengers was given DLC to the very end.
Mm-hmm.
They were continuing the story. I mean, if it wasn't for COVID and some things, Marvel's Avengers would still be going on.
Yeah, COVID definitely.
Shout out, shout out to one of the L7C's most streamed game, Marvel's Avengers. We'll be getting back on there soon because that game is a lot of fun once you know what you're doing.
Yes, it is. It is. It is. Let's switch to the comic world real quick. So there is a comic out called Gotham War. I know we were talking about it earlier this week. What's going on with Gotham War, man? Sounds
So that
intriguing.
literally just started this past week. Read it on, we'll see, do it on Monday, Thursday. Read it on Thursday. So basically, Batman and the Justice League, they had this little fight stuff with the villain. Batman's been asleep for like 8 weeks. Wakes up, crime is severely down. And the reason crime is down is because basically now all the henchmen, henchwomen, all that stuff, they all work for Catwoman now. Um,
Interesting.
all of them, all the other crime bosses like a Riddler, Black Mask, they don't have any goons anymore. Everyone basically works for Catwoman. And Catwoman has taught them that no heist is worth your life.
Mm-hmm.
No violent stuff. You can only steal from rich people. So violent crime has been down like 90 something percent. And she finally called the Bat family into a meeting, was talking about it. And of course, Batman doesn't agree with it because it's like you're still stealing from people, yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
The other Bat family members, like a Batgirl, Nightwing, they're like Tim Drake, Robin, they're like, well, stats, I mean, you can't lie with the stats. Crime is down. It is down. So, and then you have like Jason Todd who fully sides with Catwoman. So that's been starting. Batman literally just got in a fight in Batman 137 against the Bat family because of their beliefs on this stuff. Like he was fighting all of them, and
Mm-hmm.
like Damian came to help him. And then at the end of that comic, Vandal Savage, if you're a DC fan, just bought Wayne Manor. Um, it was
Huh?
very, yeah, he just bought Wayne Manor. Batman's not a billionaire at this point in the comics because of the Joker war that they had, and Joker stopped playing around and just says, "All right, I know who everyone is," and like took all of the Wayne fortune. But then they got it back in the end, but it's all under Lucius Fox now. So he's like a
Mm-hmm.
modest millionaire who's been living in like a modest millionaire neighborhood. So he's gone through a lot because Zach Zdarsky, who's been doing really Chip Zdarsky, who's been doing really well in the comics. He's doing really well in Daredevil too. If you want to go read some Daredevil, but he had the failsafe arc, which was the artificial intelligence that Batman created to be able to take himself out if he ever went killed anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Then he got blasted to a multiverse with no Batman. Then was fighting the godfather of the Jokers. So he was the one who basically created every Joker in the multiverse. And that's when you had the scenes of last time we talked, like Batman meeting all the different Batmen of the multiverse,
Mm-hmm.
meeting Michael Keaton. Like this is the main comic Batman meeting Michael Keaton's Batman, meeting Adam West's Batman, meeting the Dark Knight Returns Batman, meeting the Injustice Batman. Like all of that stuff to now him having this, gonna have this internal war with people in his family and Catwoman because he's gonna feel like crime is crime, and like it's gonna be very interesting.
It does sound interesting with basically Catwoman being the queen of crime. So it was interesting to see what happens with
And she's
that.
training these people, training them how to do heists, training them to defend themselves, but again, to not have anything violent. Like she says, no heist is worth your life. So, and look, and what can you really do? I mean, obviously they still love each other, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a different perspective because of that love there. And she knows all of their identities; they know her identity. I mean, what would make news more? Catwoman, like, oh, Catwoman, Selena Kyle. Most people, so a lot of people are like, okay. Or Nightwing is Dick Grayson, Batman is Bruce Wayne. Like, you always have those dangerous things you could do in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a very nip and tuck, and lines have already been drawn within the family. So all of that. The last fight that Batman fought, he got to use his metal hand because right now he has a metal hand because his hand got cut off in the multiversal time travel. So he has a metal hand. So
Man has been going through it.
and he has been going through it the past couple of years from the Dark Knight Metal series from Scott Snyder with the evil multiversal Batman to like all this stuff. Like he's been going through it. He has not caught a break.
Well, maybe one day he'll get that break, but not until the Gotham War is over, and then we'll see what his next big adventure is.
Mm-hmm.
But that is all the topics we have for today. Did you have anything else you want to talk about?
Not really particularly. Obviously, the guy gets his own day. This has been going on since like 2014. So, and now it's just become it's almost a DC Hallmark event because gives them a excuse to sell a whole bunch of Batman merchandise, which obviously goes to their pockets. I know there's going to be there's obviously, if you're into comics, there's free comics at comic book stores that participate. There's going to be a prelude to Gotham War that should be free. Potentially, it's just a 10-page prelude story. The movies, the games, but hopefully you sit on these type of things. It's like a Comic-Con. You're waiting for some news. Did you have any questions?
The only question I have for you is how will you be celebrating Batman Day this year?
I will watch some Batman stuff. I will not lie about that. I probably will watch the warehouse fight scene. I'll probably watch some Batman from the Schneider cut, some Batman Begins stuff, the car chases and those. Probably watch the opening monologue of the Batman where they think I'm hiding in the shadows, but I am the shadows. Like just some clips, just patiently waiting, seeing all the tweets, be like, all right, we getting some news or no? Who knows? We'll wait and see. We'll see. But no,
I definitely will be watching some Batman things. I might actually go see Batman Begins in theaters since I haven't seen that one in theaters yet. But we'll see, with football, which gets precedence.
The greatest thing ever would be if they finally announced that Jess Atkin, aka Dean Winchester, gets announced. That'd be the greatest Batman Day maybe ever. Yeah, everyone. If you could just type his name and type in Batman, you see fantastic fan art and all. Like everyone wants him to do it, man.
Yeah, didn't one year for Halloween he dressed up as Red Hood?
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's voiced Red Hood in Under the Red Hood,
which is a great movie.
Mm-hmm. Like, and he's Soldier Boy in The Boys, so it's like people want him to do it. They're gonna say we're gonna go with a young Batman, and the guy's probably gonna be like 40 years old. So,
hey, they say 40 is a new 20 nowadays. But we'll see. Hopefully, we get some great news on Batman Day, which is September 16th of this year. You can check out any of our past DC pods. We probably have talked about Batman on all those. You can check out our previous Batman Day episodes last year and the year before that, because this is year 3, which is wild to think about, the year 3 of the L7C. But this is the Captain signing out.
Yeah, and for the listeners, you can listen to this on Batman Day.
True. It will be dropping on Batman Day.
But all right. Thank you, Cap, for monitoring this one. Always appreciative.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.